In 1588, Europe stood divided, Protestant against Catholic, empires clashing on the seas, and kings and queens locked in a struggle for power. At the centre stood two monarchs, King Philip II of Spain, ruler of the largest empire the world had ever seen, and determined to crush heresy, and Queen Elizabeth I of England, Protestant defiant and unwilling to bow to foreign powers. For years, tension had grown. English privateers like Francis Drake raided Spanish treasure fleets from the New World. Elizabeth lent her support to Protestant rebels in the Netherlands, and in 1587 she ordered the execution of Mary, Queen of Scots, Philip's Catholic ally. To Philip it was the final straw. He resolved to end Elizabeth's reign with a vast fleet, the Spanish Armada. The Armada was the greatest naval force of its age. Around 130 ships, galleons, supply vessels, and armed merchantmen, carrying almost 30,000 men. Philip's plan was bold. The Armada would sail up the Channel to the Netherlands, join with the Duke of Parma's army, and together invade England. But communication was fragile, dependent on signals across hostile seas. Success required discipline, good weather, and the favour of God. England, though smaller and poorer, was not helpless. Elizabeth's navy numbered fewer than 200 ships, but among them were fast, modern vessels built for gunnery. Lord Charles Howard held command, with Drake, Hawkins, and Frobisher as his lieutenants. Their strategy was clear: harass the Armada, keep distance, and strike with speed. On land, beacons were built to warn of invasion. Militia were raised, and Elizabeth herself vowed she would ride among her soldiers if Spain came ashore. In May 1588, the Armada sailed from Lisbon under the Duke of Medina Sidonia. It was a sight to behold, mighty galleons adorned with banners and crucifixes. But storms struck them in the Bay of Biscay, forcing repairs at Corunna. Still, by late July, the Armada entered the Channel. The coastal beacons were lit, fire spreading from Cornwall to London. The enemy was here. The Armada advanced in a crescent formation, strong but slow. English squadrons shadowed them, darting in, firing broadsides, and retreating before the Spaniards could close. At Plymouth, Drake struck. Off Portland and the Isle of Wight, the Armada was harried again. The Spaniards held formation, but they could not shake their pursuers. At Calais, the Armada anchored to await Parma's army, but the Dutch blockade held Parma fast, and communication with Sidonia broke down. The English seized their chance. In the dead of night, they sent fireships, old vessels packed with pitch and gunpowder, drifting into the anchored fleet. Panic erupted, anchors were cut, ships scattered, the proud crescent shattered. At dawn came the Battle of Gravelines. The English pressed hard, their cannons pounding Spanish hulls from a distance. For 9 hours the fight raged. No great galleon was sunk, but many were crippled. Morale broke, and with it, Philip's grand design. The Armada turned north. Retreat was their only hope. But storms swept the fleeing ships around Scotland and Ireland. Galleons foundered on jagged coasts. Thousands drowned, others starved. Of 130 ships, barely half returned. For Spain, it was a disaster. The invincible Armada was invincible no more. For England, it was deliverance. Elizabeth's reign had survived by faith, fire, and storm. At Tilbury, she declared she had the heart and stomach of a king, and of a king of England too. The Armada's defeat did not end the war with Spain, but it marked a turning point. England had withstood the might of Europe's greatest power. And from the wreck of Philip's fleet, a new age of English naval supremacy began. The Armada had come in splendour and faith. It returned in wreckage and ruin. A clash not just of ships, but of nations, religions, and destinies. A moment that reshaped the balance of power in Europe forever.